The dining room at my parents' house looked like a palace. The chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling and catching the light in every direction. There were shiny crystal glasses on the table, each one gleaming. Fresh flowers were everywhere, and they smelled amazing. I had no idea how much Mom had spent on them, but it was probably more than most people make in a whole year. The plates and forks and knives on the table were not normal ones you buy at a store. They were fancy and expensive. Thanksgiving at our house was never really about saying thank you or being grateful. It was more about showing off and proving how rich we were. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? My sister Thalassa sat at the head of the table, across from Dad. She liked everyone to see that she was the one in charge of the family legacy. At 34, she was the CEO of a big tech company called TechVantage Solutions. The company had become very popular 2 years ago, and Thalassa had gotten extremely rich from it. She never let anyone forget that she was successful, and she loved making people feel small when she talked about it. "I'm serious, Amaris," Thalassa said, her voice sharp and bossy in the way she always used to be with me. "You need to understand that playing with stocks on your own isn't the same as real investing. It's cute, but it's not real money management." My brother-in-law Zephyr laughed, swirling his wine. "She's right," he said. "What are you even working with, Amaris? 100,000? 200,000? That's cute for a hobby, but it won't make real money. It won't move markets." Mom smiled politely, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Amaris has always been more careful," she said. "Not everyone wants to be a business tycoon. Some people are happy just being modest." I continued cutting my turkey, keeping my face neutral. "The stuffing is really good this year," I said, hoping to change the subject. "Mom, don't change the subject," Thalassa snapped. She was enjoying this fight, especially with her team at the table. Her CFO Evander, her COO Thessa, and her lawyer Renwick. She loved having an audience. "I'm genuinely trying to help you," Thalassa said. "You're 31 now. You should start thinking seriously about your money and your future instead of playing around with index funds or whatever you do." "I appreciate your concern," I said calmly. "Do you even have a financial advisor?" Evander asked, looking at me. He already knew the answer. "I manage it myself," I said simply. Everyone laughed politely. Dad shook his head like I had said something naive but cute. "That's exactly the problem," Thalassa said. "I know you've never wanted to work in the family business or do anything corporate, and that's fine. But managing your own money without a professional it's risky. You could be leaving money on the table." "Maybe," I said, taking a sip of water. Thessa leaned forward. "Thalassa, didn't you say TechVantage has a really good wealth management division now? Maybe Amaris could benefit from their services. Family discount." Thalassa's eyes lit up. "That's perfect, Amaris. Our wealth management team is top-notch. They could probably triple your portfolio in 5 years if you follow the right strategy. I'll set up a meeting for you. Consider it an early Christmas present." "That's very generous, but I'm fine with my current approach," I said. "Comfortable staying poor, you mean?" Zephyr muttered quietly, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Dad cleared his throat. "Amaris, your sister is trying to help. The least you could do is consider her offer. Pride is one thing, but financial security is important." I met his eyes. Dad, Cashinarden, had built a huge real estate empire over 40 years. He was worth roughly $800 million, and he spent my entire life making it clear that Thalassa had inherited his business instincts while I had not. I had stopped trying to prove otherwise years ago. "I understand, Dad. I'll think about it," I said. "Thinking about it is great," Thalassa said, her voice dripping with fake encouragement. "But you also need to act. That's always been your problem. You think and never actually do anything bold. That's why you're still playing with small investments while some of us are actually building real wealth." Evander raised his glass. "To bold action and real wealth building." Thalassa's leadership has taken TechVantage from a $400 million valuation at IPO to over $2.8 billion today. That's the vision. Everyone toasted. I raised my glass slightly but didn't drink. The conversation moved on to Thalassa's recent acquisition of a smaller competitor, a deal that had made headlines in the tech press. She held court, explaining her strategic vision while her team nodded appreciatively, and my parents beamed with pride. I let their words wash over me, barely listening. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. "Amaris, could you please silence that?" Mom said sharply. "We're having family time." "Sorry," I said, pulling out my phone to switch it off, but the screen made me pause. There were 15 missed calls from a number I recognized, my contact at Goldman Sachs. 6 urgent emails. 3 text messages marked urgent. Everything okay? Thalassa asked with exaggerated concern. Not having a stock market emergency with your little portfolio. Are you? Or is it just spam? I turned the phone face down. Just spam, I said. But before I could set it down, it rang again. The same Goldman Sachs number. I answered the call and stepped away from the table, walking toward the hallway. Miss Arden, the voice on the other end said, breathless and urgent. I've been trying to reach you for 20 minutes. We have a situation with your position in TechVantage Solutions. What kind of situation? I asked. The sell order you placed last week for your entire position, $250 million in shares, executed this morning. But there's been unusual market activity in the past hour. Someone leaked information about a major shareholder selling, and there's panic selling across the board. TechVantage stock is down 34% and falling. The company's market cap has lost over $900 million in the past 90 minutes. We're even seeing circuit breaker triggers. Trading is being paused because of the chaos. I stayed quiet for a moment, processing the information. I already knew about the accounting problems in the company, which was why I had decided to sell. But I hadn't expected the leak to happen so fast or the crash to be so dramatic. What's the current price? I asked calmly. $31.45 and dropping. You sold it for $54.20. Ms. Arden, the voice continued, you just cleared approximately $247 million in profit before the crash. But the market is going crazy. Every financial news outlet is trying to identify the major shareholder who sold first. Your sister's company is in free fall. Thank you for the update, I said, keeping my voice steady. Let's discuss the details tomorrow. Please prepare a full report on the transaction for my records. I hung up and stood in the study for a moment, collecting myself. Through the door, I could hear continued laughter and conversation from the dining room. They had no idea what was happening. I should have stayed in the study. I should have left through the side door and driven home. But something made me walk back to the dining room. Maybe it was years of condescension from Thalassa. Maybe it was just timing. I barely sat down when the front door burst open. Thalassa, a young woman in a pantsuit, rushed into the dining room. Her face was red and panicked. It was Nissa, Thalassa's executive assistant. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Nissa said. But there's an emergency. Your phone has been off, and the board has been trying to reach you for the past hour. Thalassa's face shifted from annoyed to concerned. What kind of emergency, ma'am? Your major shareholder just sold $250 million in shares. The stock is plummeting. Trading has been halted 3 times due to circuit breakers. We're down over $1 billion in market value. The board has called an emergency meeting for tonight. The SEC is asking questions. Financial reporters are camped outside the office. The color drained from Thalassa's face. What? That's impossible. Our major institutional holders are all long-term investors. It wasn't an institution, Nissa said, her voice shaking. It was an individual investor. Someone who had been quietly accumulating shares for years. They dumped everything yesterday morning, and the transaction just became public an hour ago. The market is responding to rumors that they knew about problems with the company. Evander now had his phone out, scrolling rapidly. Jesus Christ, he muttered. The stock was $54 this morning. It's at $29 now. We've lost over $1 billion in market cap. Who sold? Which shareholder? Thalassa asked, panic rising in her voice. We don't know yet, Nissa said. The transaction was done through layers of holding companies. But whoever it is, they owned about 4.2% of the company and sold everything at the peak price right before the crash. Thalassa's hands were shaking. This is insider trading. Someone knew something, she said. Renwick, her chief counsel, interrupted. His face was grim. We have a bigger problem. Bloomberg is reporting that the SEC has opened an investigation into TechVantage accounting practices. There are allegations about revenue recognition irregularities. Thalassa froze. Did you know about this? What? Our accounting, she said, her confidence faltering. Evander avoided her eyes. There were some aggressive interpretations of revenue recognition standards. Nothing illegal, just optimistic, he admitted quietly. Renwick's voice was sharp. Define optimistic. Evander swallowed. We may have recognized revenue on some contracts before they were fully executed. And some expenses were capitalized that might not withstand strict scrutiny. I told you, we were pushing the boundaries. Thalassa's face went pale. Her team was silent. I sat there watching them scramble, and for the first time in years, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Thalassa, I told you 6 months ago that we should be more careful. I had tried to warn her, but she didn't listen. My father was standing now, looking very tense and worried. The air in the room felt heavy. Thalassa, my father said, his voice shaking slightly. What is he talking about? What did you do? Nothing bad. Thalassa said quickly, but I could hear the panic in her voice. We were just using normal business rules to make our earnings look bigger. Every tech company does it. It's completely normal. Zephyr, who was standing across the room, shook his head slowly. Normal rules that you're being investigated for, he said in a calm, serious voice. Thessa was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Her face was turning paler with every second. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Oh no, she whispered. CNBC is doing a special report. They're calling it the TechVantage collapse. They're comparing it to other big accounting scandals. Thalassa, your picture is on TV right now. My mother made a small sound of worry, like she couldn't believe what was happening. Thalassa's face went from red to white. She looked like she might actually be sick. Who sold the shares? Thalassa asked suddenly. Her voice was shaking, and her panic was turning into anger. Someone knew about the investigation and sold it before everyone else. That's illegal. When we find out who it was, we'll punish them for insider trading. It was Amorous, Renwick said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt everyone's eyes on me at the same time. My heart started beating faster. Renwick was staring at his phone, reading something. His face didn't show much emotion, but I could tell he was serious. I just received an email from our transfer agent. The big shareholder who sold is listed under Arden Investment Holdings LLC. That's Amorous's company. I remember because she had to tell us when she got more than 5% of the company 3 years ago. The room went completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Thalassa's face went through several colors, red, then white, then pale green. What? She said, her voice almost a whisper. Amorous owns 4.2% of TechVantage Solutions, Renwick said, still looking at his phone but speaking in a calm lawyer-like voice. Based on today's numbers before the stock crashed, her shares were worth about $252 million. She sold them at $54.20 per share. Now the stock is trading at $29. That means she avoided losing about $110 million and made around $247 million. My father, who had been standing, sat down heavily in a chair. He looked like the weight of the world had just landed on him. That's not possible, he said quietly. Amorous doesn't have that kind of money. She doesn't. When did you buy it? Evander, who was always thinking through complicated problems, spoke up. When did you start accumulating shares? His voice sounded hollow, like he was trying to understand a puzzle. 7 years ago, I said quietly, trying not to get too emotional. Right after I finished my MBA from Wharton. I started with a $2 million inheritance from grandmother Arden. I bought shares in several companies I believed were undervalued. TechVantage was one of them. Back then it was a private company, only worth about $80 million. I bought shares at $8 per share through a private placement round. You bought before the IPO? Thessa asked, her eyes wide. She looked shocked. Do you know what that position is worth? Yes, I am aware, I said calmly. Thalassa found her voice again, though it was shaky. You've been a major shareholder in my company for 7 years, and you never told me. You never asked me anything about it. I looked at her and said, and you made it very clear over the years that you didn't want me involved in anything business-related. You spent every family gathering for the past decade telling me I don't understand real investing or serious wealth management. But you. Thalassa's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She couldn't find the words to respond. You live in a normal apartment. You drive a Honda. You dress like someone who doesn't need to prove her wealth to feel valuable. I finished, yes, I do. I live well, but I don't need to show it to the world. Zephyr, still staring at his phone, said softly, Amorous, are you the Arden that everyone is talking about on Twitter right now? Financial Twitter is going crazy trying to identify the mysterious investor who perfectly timed the TechVantage exit. They're calling you the Oracle of tech stocks. I'm not an oracle, I said calmly. I just do my research. Research? Evander repeated, sounding confused. The kind where you actually read financial statements instead of just the summary reports, I said, looking directly at him. 6 months ago, I noticed some irregularities in TechVantage's revenue. The numbers didn't match up with the rules or with other similar companies. I dug deeper and found concerning patterns in how expenses were being reported. Some expenses were being recorded as investments instead of being treated as regular costs. It was aggressive accounting. Technically legal, but ethically questionable. Most importantly, it was unsustainable, and I could see it would cause trouble in the future. I turned to Thalassa. I actually tried to tell you. Remember last spring when I asked to talk to you about TechVantage? You told me you didn't have time to explain business concepts to someone who played with stocks as a hobby. So I made the decision any responsible investor would make when they lose confidence in a company's financial practices. I sold my position. You destroyed my company. Thalassa shouted. Your selling triggered a panic that wiped out billions in value. No, I said calmly. Your aggressive accounting triggered the SEC investigation that destroyed confidence in your company. I just happened to sell it before that information became public. That's insider trading. Thalassa insisted. You had access to nothing, I said firmly. Every piece of data I used to make my decision was in your public filings. Anyone could have done the same analysis. They just didn't. Renwick cleared his throat. Actually, Thalassa, Amaris is right. If she based her decision only on public filings and her own analysis, that's not insider trading. That's just good investing. We'd have a really hard time proving she had material non-public information. She's my sister, he added, giving me a quick glance. You're my sister. Thalassa screamed, almost hysterical. You had access to nothing. You had no inside information. Yes, I said firmly. You excluded me from every business discussion, every family business meeting, every conversation about TechVantage for 7 years. You made absolutely sure I had no inside access to any information. Congratulations. That means there's no possible insider trading claim. My mother was crying softly now. My father looked like he had aged 20 years in 20 minutes. The tension in the room was unbearable. Evander spoke, his voice hollow and serious. The emergency board meeting is in 2 hours. Thalassa, we need to prepare. The SEC investigation is real. If they find what I think they'll find, we're looking at restatements, fines, and possibly criminal charges, depending on what they determine. Criminal charges? My mother gasped. For accounting fraud, yes, Renwick said quietly. If they determine that revenue was intentionally misstated to deceive investors. Thalassa's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard in her chair. She looked completely defeated. I didn't try to deceive anyone, she said quietly. I was just trying to show growth, keep the stock price up, and make shareholders happy by lying about your financial performance. Thalassa, I know you didn't mean for it to go this far, but you surrounded yourself with yes-men who told you what you wanted to hear instead of what you needed to know. And when someone tried to raise concerns, you dismissed them because you thought you were smarter than everyone else. You could have pushed harder, she said, tears streaming down her face. I tried, I said softly. You told me to stay in my lane. You told me my little investments weren't serious. You spent years making it clear my opinion had no value to you. I'm sorry this is happening. I really am, but I'm not responsible for your choices. Nissa was pulling at Thalassa's arm. Ma'am, we really need to go. The board is waiting, and the press is getting more aggressive. Thalassa stood shakily, looking at me one last time. Her expression was a mix of betrayal, anger, and something that might have been respect. How much are you worth now, Amaris? My father asked quietly. After selling about $890 million, I said softly. TechVantage was my largest position, but I've been investing in other companies for years. I have positions in 16 companies across various sectors. Most of them are doing quite well. My father whispered, Jesus Christ. You're worth more than me, Thalassa said quietly. It wasn't a question, I said simply. Yes, more than Dad. Yes, I said again. Thalassa laughed, but it was a broken, sad sound. And we spent years telling you that you didn't understand real wealth, that you were playing with little investments, that you needed our help. Yes, I said simply. Thalassa left with her team. Nissa was practically dragging her toward the door. Through the windows, I could see news vans pulling up outside the estate. They had tracked her here. My father walked to the bar and poured himself a large scotch. He looked tired and old beyond his years. Amaris, I don't understand. Why did you let us believe you were struggling? Why live so modestly if you're worth nearly $1 billion? I'm not struggling, Dad. I live well within my means. I drive a reliable car. I have a comfortable apartment. I don't need a mansion or a luxury vehicle to feel successful. I paused, curious how long it would take for any of you to ask about my life instead of making assumptions. 7 years, my mother said softly. 8 years, I corrected gently. I started investing 9 years ago. I've been building wealth for almost a decade and none of you noticed because I wasn't loud about it. I wasn't flashy. I just did the work. Zephyr spoke up, his voice subdued. What happens now to Thalassa, to TechVantage? That depends on what the SEC finds. If the accounting issues are as serious as I think they are, she's looking at significant fines, possible restatement of several years of financial reports, and criminal charges if they determine there was intent to defraud. The company might survive if they clean the house and implement proper controls, or it might not. Can you help her? My mother asked desperately. You have money now. You could what? Buy back into a company that's being investigated for fraud. That would be financial suicide. Mom, I sold my shares because the company is fundamentally unsound. Throwing money at it won't fix that. But she's your sister, and she spent years treating me like I was financially illiterate, my mother said. I'm sorry this is happening to her. I genuinely am. But I'm not going to destroy my own financial position to save her from the consequences of her own decisions. My father finished his drink. What will you do now? He asked. I think I will go home, I said. Maybe I'll keep taking care of my investments. Or maybe I'll take a vacation. I've been thinking about New Zealand. It seems like a nice place to visit. I stood up. I should go. I have some calls to make. Amaris, wait, my father said. He looked sad, and he looked older than I had ever seen him. He seemed tired and worried at the same time. I owe you an apology, he said. We all do. We didn't believe in you. We didn't listen to you. We made you feel like you weren't successful because your success didn't look like what we expected. Yes, you did, I said quietly. Can you forgive us? I thought about it for a moment. Maybe someday. But right now I need some space. This is a lot to take in all at once. My mother stood up and walked over to me. I'm proud of you, she said, her voice shaking. I should have said that years ago. I'm so proud of what you've done, even if I don't fully understand how you did it. Thank you, I said. That really means a lot. I left through the side door, so the reporters at the front wouldn't see me. My Honda was parked on the street. It was just a normal car, nothing fancy, among all the luxury cars around it. I sat in the driver's seat for a few minutes, thinking about everything that had just happened. My phone rang. It was Goldman Sachs again. Ms. Arden, they said. 3 big news channels want to interview you about selling your company TechVantage. Bloomberg, CNBC, and the Wall Street Journal all want to talk to you. I don't want to be in the news, I said. I like being a private investor. I don't need to be famous. Please say no to all interviews. But people really want to know, they said. You sold at the perfect time. Everyone is talking about it. It is a huge story. I'm not interested in fame. I just want to make good investments quietly and live my life, I said. But some big investment firms want to hire me to manage money or give advice. They're offering a lot of money. I smiled. Tell them I'll think about it, but I'm not deciding anything right now. I drove home through the evening traffic. My small apartment building felt like a safe and peaceful place. My 1-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor was tiny compared to my family's homes, but it was mine. I had bought it with cash 5 years ago, and that made me feel proud. Inside, I made some tea and opened my laptop. My investment dashboard showed today's results. TechVantage was still falling, now at $24, down more than 55% from this morning. My other investments were doing well, up for the day. In total, I had made $247 million from selling TechVantage and another $12 million from my other investments. It was more money than I had ever imagined having. More than I needed. More than I could ever spend, even if I lived a very long time. But it wasn't really about the money. It had never been about the money. It was about being underestimated and proving everyone wrong without saying a word. It was about doing good work quietly and letting the results show. It was about knowing my own value, even if no one else recognized it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Amaris, it's Evander from TechVantage. I know we weren't always nice to you, but your analysis was right. I should have listened when you raised concerns. I hope you can forgive us for being arrogant. I typed back. I appreciate that. Good luck with the SEC investigation. Be honest with them. It's your best chance. Another text came in. It was from Thessa. You're brilliant and we were fools. Congratulations on selling your company. You earned it. I smiled but didn't reply. A third text from Thalassa. I'm sorry for everything. We ignored you for 4 years and treated you like you didn't matter. You were right about accounting. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I stared at it for a long time before replying. Thank you. I hope things work out as best as they can. Take care of yourself. The next morning, TechVantage kept falling in after-hours trading. The SEC investigation was getting bigger. Thalassa was put on leave by the board. Evander, the CFO, had quit. The news was everywhere. I also got 17 voicemails from investment firms and emails from venture capital groups. One message was from a professor at Wharton. He asked if I wanted to teach a class on investing and financial analysis. I thought about that while drinking my coffee. Teaching could be interesting. I could help other investors learn to check companies carefully, read financial statements, and make decisions based on facts instead of hype. It might even be fun to explain things to students who wanted to learn, just like I had learned. My phone rang. It was my father. Amaris, I want to apologize again. Would you look at some of my commercial real estate? I think I may have missed things like I missed what Thalassa was doing. I trust you. I should have always trusted you. Send me the financial statements, I said. I'll look at them. Thank you, Nima. Your mother and I would like to have dinner with you. Just the 3 of us. No business talk. We just want to know the real you, not the version we imagined. I'd like that, I said. Maybe next week? Next week is perfect, he said. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started looking at my investments. I had 3 companies I wanted to study more. They showed warning signs like TechVantage had. This was my work. This was who I was. Not chasing flashy returns or bragging about money. I did careful work, made smart decisions, and built something real. My family finally saw it. They had needed a $900 million market crash and a big scandal to notice, but they saw it now. Better late than never, I thought. I started reading the first company's financial statements, line by line, number by number, looking for the story the company didn't want to tell. This was real investing. Quiet, careful, methodical work that worked, not for fame or praise, but for results. I checked the footnotes, the small details, and the numbers that didn't match. I studied every part carefully. This was what I loved. This was what made me feel alive. My phone buzzed one more time. A news alert. TechVantage CEO Thalassa Arden steps down because of the SEC investigation. The stock was down 67% from its peak. I closed the alert and returned to my analysis. Some lessons cost $900 million to learn, and sometimes the person everyone underestimated is the only one who knew what they were doing. I took a sip of coffee and smiled. Time to find the next opportunity. I knew I would stay careful, smart, and quiet. I would continue to work hard, look for the truth in numbers, and make decisions that mattered. This was what I loved.